I'm Frazer Coupland. I'm CEO of the West Highlands Chamber of Commerce. This is number 8 in our series of Meet the Director. Today we're at the lovely Dewsdale Hotel on the Isle of Skye, and we've got Christina McNeil. Christina is one of the newest directors, so today's going to be great because I don't know that much about you, Christina, so I'm going to delve into Christina's dark and wonderful past.
So I hope it won't be too boring.
I'm sure it won't be. Christina, let's start at the beginning. Where does Christina McNeil come from, and how did you end up here?
Good question. So I was actually born and raised as a young girl in Beirut. So my mother had gone out to the Middle East to teach English as a foreign language and met my father there. And we lived in a very large extended family. I had a brother and a sister, and we lived a really happy life there until unfortunately it became quite dangerous. So we moved to the UK when I was 9, which was a real sort of difficult time, I think, especially for my parents, but also for us to sort of move so far away. And whilst I knew England, I didn't really know England at all. Mm-hmm. A few summer holidays was the extent of the amount of time I'd spent in the UK, and English wasn't my first language.
Right.
We spoke English at home, but it wasn't our primary language. So there was a lot of change then, and I really missed, on coming here, our sense of community. And my parents were very much wanted us to create a new community, not just for themselves, but especially for us. New friends, new relationships, which is what we did. And so I started living down south and moved to London after university, and then later met my husband, James, in London, who is a Scot. And the first few months when we were going out, he said, I really want to take you to Skye, which is where he had enormous fond memories as a child. He'd also lived overseas. His father was in the Gurkhas, and all of his holidays had been spent up here. And his grandparents were here. So that's what we did. So that was my first introduction to Skye as a sort of late 20-year-old with my husband.
I think that's what Scots guys do, isn't it? You know, I remember within my own friend group at school, and there was this sort of casual chat. We were sort of in our formative years. Now, remember, boys, if you end up going out with a girl from the islands, you'll end up living in the islands. And then when I went away when I was 16, and I never envisaged myself growing up anywhere else but in the Highlands. And you know, any girl I met was, well, you have to come to the Highlands and see it. So I think that's what Scottish people do. So you're in London, you
Yep.
visited Scotland,
Yep.
you're married now, so you've always decided that was a good thing. What did you study at university, and what was work?
So I studied law at university and then went to law school in London, and then decided to go and work for PwC in a department that specialised in expats. I think it resonated with me because I'd lived overseas, and started working for them and stayed with PwC actually for a really long time and loved it. So specialising in tax, I had a really great time working there.
A popular field to go into, the taxation, so
Yeah.
helping people with tax, I guess.
Helping people with tax, especially expats who didn't really know how the tax system worked.
Yeah, it is complicated, tax. I know from running a business, and more so recently with the Chamber of Commerce, when we're fortunate enough to do trade missions, learning about taxation systems in different countries, it is a minefield, so it's important that people understand that. Are you still involved with tax now?
So less so now, and I'm currently training to become a business coach. So with a view to us spending more time here in the Highlands, I want to do something of my own. and I've done a lot of mentoring and talent development during my time at PwC, and I want to take that and do something really good with it. So I'm currently doing business and life coaching and hoping to qualify at the end of the year.
Brilliant. One of the things that I've been nearly 7 years as the CEO, and one of the things that benefited me hugely throughout my sort of 20 years of running my business was having a mentor. I was very lucky then that, you know, for probably the first 10 years of my business, my dad was alive, and then when my dad sort of passed, every day I would think I'd run that past my dad, and then you think, oh my gosh, he's not there. And then somebody from the business community stepped in and said, tell me about your business, tell me. And building the trust with a mentor is a tough job, but once you do it, it's a great thing for a business. I think business mentoring and business coaching, particularly in the West Highlands, we've got to work on that as a chamber. So I'm so welcoming of hearing this, because we are quite private in the West Highlands for all we live in rural communities. Do you see that being an advantage, being relatively new coming in?
I think so. You know, I think one thing that really impresses me whenever I'm here and I'm interacting with anyone is people here are so willing to wear lots of different hats. They will give anything a go. So I might have someone who's coming to help me with something to do with the house, but they'll tell me that they do 3 other things as well on the island. And I think there's this real sense of, you know, they look after themselves, and they do that by trying lots of different things. They're not afraid to try something new, but whether they give themselves the time to reflect on what's working well, what's not working well, where the gaps are, I'm not sure. And I think that's where hopefully I could add some value.
I think I would sort of say that I think that's a West Highland resilience. You're right, you said it there. They just get on because they have to.
Yep.
And if they don't, then it doesn't happen. But it is important now, and as the generational changes and inevitably change the way people are running businesses, it is about taking that time to reflect. Are we doing well? Are we maximising the technology that's available to us? And are we doing these things? So I think it's really important. I mean, I look forward now to getting you involved with developing the young workforce as well as developing the business side of things. And I think asking these hard questions of business communities as well, you know, because I think one of the things that I see is all the time is our communities are being asked all the time to behave more like businesses with community interest companies, community enterprise, community asset transfers, all these things. So it will be a case of how do we as a chamber, I'm now talking about as a chamber, how do we support those organisations as going forward? And I suppose what that leads me into now, Christina, is you're a director of the chamber, which is great, and you're on that journey. I'd kind of like to just take a wee step back, and what first made you think about the West Highland Chamber?
So I think primarily because ultimately this is where we're going to be. This is where we're going to be living, my husband and I. So I want to put down roots, but I also want a sense of community, and I want to add value to that community. And I really feel very passionately about that. I don't just want to live somewhere and not be part of something. And if I can help in any way, I really want to do that. And you know, the reason I think I first reached out to you is you were looking to develop a young sort of chamber, or explore that idea. And I really like that idea because I think there's so much talent within young people, but I think we need to open the door for them to see what good looks like, so that actually they're learning and they're growing and they're progressing. And you know, the chamber offers a wonderful opportunity to do that. So that was my thinking at the time, before getting in touch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still aspirationally, I still want to have a young chamber board. Although I've realised young is not the word to use. New people who haven't done it before, whatever.
Yeah.
I describe that journey as like running a marathon. The toughest bit is to get yourself onto the start line.
Yeah.
Once you're on the start line, you realise you're surrounded by people who have got all the same feelings, anxieties, and aspirations as you. But it's that barrier. It's not me. It's for the athletes. So, and I'm not quite sure that we've cracked that within the West Highland Chamber in bringing the next generation of business people and younger people or newer people or fresher people into the board. And that doesn't mean that we're going to stop trying. And I think as we've now expanded the board, we've got new people, we'll try fresh approaches in different communities in different ways. So I too am excited about that part. I was sat here a few weeks ago when I interviewed Ben, who is also quite new onto the board, and I asked a quick question because I talked about getting to that start line, and you're there, you're on that start line. Has that experience been a friendly experience? Was it okay?
It's been a really friendly experience. So I've attended a couple of board meetings and the Meet the Director session that you held, which has all been really informative and friendly. I'm finding my way, and I'm sure the next few months will be more learning on my part. But yeah, really enjoying it so far.
No, that's great. So I hope that message resonates. If nobody else listens to our podcast, I hope that message resonates out. So you're now on the chamber board. You've been to a couple of board meetings. We've got one later today.
Yeah.
You've done quite a bit of listening. At some point, you're going to want to grab that tiller and say, I want to go in this direction now, or can you take us here? So what's on the horizon for West Highland Chamber with you at the helm?
So I'd say the one thing I'm passionate about doing is getting young people involved. What that looks like is yet to be determined, but even if it's just having someone come along and attend a meeting and see what happens in those meetings, I think we could spark or light a few fires, then that would be really positive, because ultimately things will change, we'll all move on, and we need younger people constantly showing an interest. And it's in their interest, if they want to live in the Highlands, that actually the voices of businesses are heard, that there's someone like yourself who's listening to the noise and can cut through it and think of a way to actually elevate problems or issues to people who might be able to help solve them. And that's hugely important.
I think you just struck on a great idea there. And I've always been very receptive of having people at board meetings who are not necessarily directors, but perhaps that's something we should discuss about making the board meetings more open, because we're not secret.
No, not at all.
We're a membership organisation. We have different varieties of funding. We're very accountable. We would share that with anyone. Why wouldn't we open the door to board meetings? And I think that's an interesting concept, and we should maybe discuss that tonight. I think you're right. I think I'm only the temporary custodian of the CEO's chair. It's a great chair. I've thoroughly enjoyed my last 7 years, and hopefully it's always a fearful moment for me when I ask the directors what do they see of the future, and somebody at one point will say, "Not you, Frazer." And, it's a worry to me. But if that's the case, we'll have to work with that. But I think we're at the cusp of a very changeable time. Today's a huge change for us with a by-election that's not really a by-election. The country's going to pivot a bit. We have worked out, I think, as a West Highland Chamber, that we need to deal with the UK and the Scottish Government equally, or at different times for different things, to make sure that we get the best for our business community. So I think we are in a period of change, and as a chamber we're in a period of change. I'm looking forward to that. I hope you are.
Definitely.
We've talked about young people.
Yep.
A word that you've used quite a few times today, and I want to come back to that now, is community. You've said very openly you want to be part of that community. I know from reading my emails over the week that you're quite interested in the West Highland Vision Conference for next year.
Yeah.
We're going to concentrate on community wealth for that conference. I hear community wealth and community well-being almost every day. What does community wealth and well-being mean to Christina McNeil?
So I think it's having a support network for me. So if, for example, you're running a business, or you're new to running a business, or you want to embark on a business, actually you should feel that there are people in your community who perhaps have been there, done it, who might mentor you, like we talked about, who might be there to support you, or just somewhere to go and talk to other people and say, I'm really struggling with this. Have you experienced that? I think that sense of helping one another has a really positive impact, so that people don't feel isolated. And it goes back to that point I made earlier. I think in the Highlands, people have got to be have a real sense of entrepreneurship. There aren't very many PAYE jobs, not for all the people who are living here. So that could be isolating, but by having this community that you can lean on, I think that changes things significantly.
So I think we're into trust, aren't we? So if we take that, if we almost work backward in our conversation, for you, a lot of resilience came from the fact that you not only changed country, you changed language, you changed your whole community.
Yes.
A lot of resilience would have come from your parents at that time, which was great that you got that. You built a new community who you learned to trust.
Absolutely.
And in some ways, moving forward, you're starting that process again with a better, clearer understanding of what you're trying to achieve. And hopefully that's a natural way to say, I hope that that's how we can see the horizon for the chamber, is built on community, resilience and trust. That would be a nice ambition to aim for.
Absolutely.
Christina McNeil, thank you very much.
Thank you, Frazer.